every misstep I've had in my career, I like to share with people so that they don't go through the same thing. Being able to see people for who they are helps you as a person because it allows you to relate to whatever they may be coping with. But at the end of the day, you got to develop goals and figure out what it is you want for yourself. And if you never do that, you find yourself 10 years down the line and you've accomplished nothing. Just constantly looking for the accomplishments, taking care of people, and being the best you. The best you is what's going to propel you to the top.
Welcome to a special episode of Prepare to Compete podcast, part of our Veterans Voices series. Today we have a privilege of speaking with a distinguished member of the United States Navy who are just months away from retiring from a remarkable 30 years of service. He's reached an esteemed rank of E9 and has served as an operations specialist, a role that's critical for Navy's mission and success of both sea and ashore. Okay, throughout his career, he has witnessed significant transformations in military operations, technology, and has been a pivotal leader and mentor to many, developing and curating. All right. As he prepares for a new chapter, he joins us to share a wealth of knowledge that he's accumulated and his insights in the evolving landscape of military service and plans on for his future. All right. With that being said, Mr. Master Chief Eugene, again, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Excellent. Just really a pleasure and an honor to be able to speak with you to gain some more information and, like I said, insights and just guidance. You know, obviously you're transitioning in service, right? You're transitioning from being in service to civilian sector, and with that, we just want to make sure that we are able to provide our audience with a lot of the insights and understandings that you may have and some of the things that you may go through to be able to help the next veteran. So and with that, again, and also just being able to share some of your background, right?
Okay.
Background understanding. But I mean, obviously, you know, we always ask our veterans kind of typically the first question, one, why did you even join the military?
Oh, so joining the military kind of happened by chance. Bit of a story about how it happened. You know, I was babysitting my sister's daughter, and we just happened to see a recruiter out there. She wanted to talk to him. So that was the first step in this 30-year journey. So did that and took the ASVAB, went in. I was working in the shipyard. It was hot all the time. And I saw myself doing something different that would pay the bills or do whatever I needed to be successful because I knew I didn't want to go to college at the time. So I joined the Navy thinking that I'd do a 4-year tour just to be able to get medical benefits and be the first male nurse in my family because, you know, I got a family full of nurses, right?
Oh, wow.
And that was my goal. And fast forward to 30 years and I got 2 degrees and none of them in healthcare. So I do still have a desire to be a nurse. Whether or not I pursue it, it's kind of still up in the air, but it would just be nice to, even if I just did an associate's of nursing, just to say I completed what my initial goal was when joining the Navy.
Nice. That's amazing. Obviously, our plans aren't always our plans, right? We always travel in different directions, but basically being able to still service and help, you have been doing that for many years. So,
Yes, sir.
Again, I know that's one of the nurses' missions and mottos as well. So that's excellent. So, I mean, obviously looking back over 30 years, how long, did it go by pretty quickly or what?
So I think it went by pretty fast. You know, I advanced pretty quickly. You know, I was a chief by the time I had 10 years in.
Wow.
So at this point, I got 19 years into being a chief. So a lot of tough times that people go in with the juggle at that 10-year mark. Do I stay? Do I go? What do I do? I think the decision by me advancing kind of was made for me, right? So, and then I was, you know, as an OS, if you know anything about OS, some of us are arrogant and prideful. So it was a goal to be the best OS that I could be everywhere I went, right?
Nice.
So, in challenging those who thought they were better.
Nice, that's amazing. Well, I mean, I guess obviously, kind of, going through that pathway of going, making chief at 10 years, which is first off, congratulations. That's phenomenal. It's kind of almost unheard of, right?
Oh, they're doing a lot less now.
But with that, I guess being an OS, sometimes from my understanding, when I served, right, it was a challenging rate where you had to use a lot of this and less brawn, right? So obviously understanding that, can you give us some of the particulars of what an OS job is today?
So OS job is basically we're part of the early awareness on ships, right? So we're part of the detection and the dissemination of information to be able to make to figure out what the combat picture is around us. Know who's in the sky, know who's on the water, and knows who's under the water. So we become jacks of all trades. Sometimes we don't get to be masters of any because we're always doing something different every time. And I think if OSs went away, you have to get to a point where technology has replaced that sailor's critical thinking and ability to spread information as quickly as we do so that we can defend the ship, because you're not only looking out for those of you that are sitting in CIC, but you're looking out for all. I mean, depending on the size ship, anything from 238 people to thousands of people sitting on board. So the pride of being able to, know that you are an integral part of what the ship does, it kind of propels you to success because you want to get better every time. So I think as an OS, being technologically savvy makes things a whole lot better. Coming in, I had a lot of conventional stuff. Now the sailor is, faced with a lot of technological data that they get from multiple systems. For some of us, it was, sometimes chance encounters. Other times it was the experience you gained to know what was out there and how to be able to look at it to say, hey, we have a threat, or if we don't.
That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. I always, for the most part, it was always very cryptic in what you guys did. It was one of those things, just trying to figure out, like, oh man, what is all I know is I guess the room is dark and it's cold up here, and it's like, oh, they're getting to it. I'll just leave it at that.
I mean, that was one of my choices of picking it. When working in the shipyard, go to the profiler in New Orleans, and he's giving me these different jobs, and I got to OS, and it said office-like air-conditioned environment, and we were done. But this is what I want. This is where I'm going.
Oh, man, that's amazing. I mean, I wish I'd had that pick list.
Yeah, I mean, the air condition was a requirement. So.
Got you. Well, I mean, obviously, with air conditioning being retirement, I know. Obviously, you were able to move up in the ranks fast and enjoy, some of the luxuries, right, as becoming upper leadership and different things of that nature. However, there is challenges getting there. What were some of the challenges that you had to overcome during service?
I think some of the challenges is proving yourself, right? Sometimes it may have seemed in places that it related to who you were as a person, whether or not your character melded with other people's characters. Because sometimes character conflict between people doesn't allow you to shine and show who you truly are, because sometimes the people you work for, everything you do helps them propel along. So, if you ask me if, at times just working with so many different people, you realize that change is the only constant throughout the military. And change, whether it's the technology, the tools, the people, and sometimes change as it relates to the cultural backgrounds and things like that. I think some of my tough moments were probably because of prideful and arrogance. I didn't listen sometime, right? Because I felt like I knew things that other people were trying to teach me. And if I could go back, some of those days, I would probably taper back who I was as a person to gain that knowledge, or pay more attention to a person that maybe on an intellectual level we didn't meld. But when you look at it, people at every level can help you, right? No matter how intelligent they are or where they come from and everything like that. And I think the diverse part of being in the military is what makes us great. And as an OS, it's a pretty diverse background, and you meet people from all over the world, and you see how they think, and you learn stuff from people that are junior to you as well as people who are senior to you. And I think that's the benefit of being an OS and seeing changes from dungarees to utilities to type 1s to type 3s. So I just hope that the uniform thing just kind of calms down. You got a new uniform that's out now. If you guys been over on Bataan, you can see the sailors wearing the kind of Coast Guard-like brown uniforms for E7 and above, and the blue uniforms for the junior sailors. So that's been big parts of changes right there, right? And we went from a conventional Navy to now a more intellectual kind of like Navy, right? That is fed by data from all over. And it makes the job that I had as an E1 much better for any E1 that comes in the military today.
Yeah, we're very in tune, obviously, with just the military, just in general. But Navy really, really resonates, obviously, of course, with my background. But now, there wasn't this amount of change ever. You're talking about a regiment that has been in place for years, just drastically pushing the needle in regards to change. Um, does that really affect your leadership style, or how has it affected your leadership
So
style?
I think things that affect my leadership style are the people that I lead. Because at the end of the day, you don't lead to make more followers. You lead to build more leaders. And I think being able to do things like that, it kind of helps to get your mindset in the right place, because the adversary is actually driving the technology, right? So we're in a race to be up front, whether it's AI or whatever type of intel things. That's what's driving, all the changes in the military, right? The other side of change is recruitment, right? So recruiting numbers have been down. So there's been a array of changes as it comes to things like ASVAB scores or the minimum age to join and things like that. So we're trying to adapt and overcome to continue to be the world's finest Navy.
I think again, for myself, there is no contention in our Navy, just in the sense of who we are. Right, the Navy is always the number one. Exactly. So, but it's just for my just understanding, with the change, I feel like a lot of times we're competing. They're competing with the civilian sector to recruit. And again, I personally believe the Navy was one of my best decisions I ever made in my life. Okay, and I think it will be a lot of other young people's best decisions that they made in their lives with people like yourself, going down that pathway of understanding that E1 to E3 journey. Can you explain some of the triumphs that you had to go through, and also some of your biggest wins and highest highs and lowest lows in that time frame?
So I think for me, I had a very good supporting cast, right? So I checked on my first ship, and I was, for a while, the only E3 and below. So I had a bunch of guys that were really smart. They took me under their wing. They trained me, and then there had times where the chief come along and say, "Hey, the trash didn't come out, get taken out," and everybody's looking at you, right? Because you're the bottom of the food chain. You're taking the trash out. But I think the journey I had from E1 to E3 was not a very difficult one because I didn't come through the Navy in the beginning in a complex world, right? I think things now are more complex with social media and different things pulling for your attention. So, like you mentioned about the Navy kind of competing with the civilian sector, at times I don't think we can compete holistically because of pay ranges, right? Because people doing some of the things we do can get paid a whole lot more on the outside, but on the inside, you think about change as it relates to the Navy and the free world is the Navy adapt this stance to be able to better prepare people on the outside because they're kind of moving toward a corporation, more of a business type model than a more like military service. Yeah. So and some of that I'm okay with because it helps people to be able to do things that will make them more marketable. If they decide 1 tour, 3 tours, 4 tours, whatever, they can get out and be manageable amongst the people that they have to compete with for whatever job it is. So, and I think even though I think the civilian community strives to have military personnel, because of punctuality and discipline and all that stuff. Some of those things I feel like we've gotten away from, right? The discipline's different, but the people are different. So I tell people all the time, because the only constant is change, if you're not constantly changing, you probably need to go somewhere else. With the younger group of people, I've realized it's my time to retire. And the reason being is I don't, I guess my mindset doesn't allow me to see their frame of mind or their level of thought. Because sometimes, we have a whole lot of really smart people, but it may be used for different purposes, like how do I get out of this or how do I do this? So, but I know we have adapted to society to be appealing to people to come in so that they can be successful. And if you're in the military, successful, there was probably a time where you didn't know if you were ready to be on your own, away from your parents or whatever like that. So, but as I grew up and, you had all the fun, it got to a point where I realized I loved what I did and I wanted to continue to do it. So, and it made me better because just constantly knowing, if not exact phrases or verbiage to things that we had to do, I knew where to find it. And that's the key to being an OS. You just got to know where to find stuff because we don't get all the high level training that many other races because we're not really tacticians. We're, I guess we are tacticians, but we're not people who work on our own. We don't work on anything, right?
Yeah.
So we rely on people for everything. So if we don't have comms, we're relying for another group. We don't have a good radar picture, we're relying for somebody else. So there's a whole lot that we are, I would say, stifled in a bit because we don't get that advanced training that would make us even more successful at what we do.
Yeah, and it's I think it's very interesting, right? You're mentioning with this change, being able to adjust to the, I guess, younger demographic, right? And I'm a direct lineage from you guys, right? I think I was, that almost that cutoff of the last of the Mohicans that got through because it's a different, again,
Seniors.
yeah. So the whole millennial Gen Z type of crowd, obviously, it's a different mindset. It comes a different environment. Though it is a different environment, it's not saying it's good or bad. It's just a tough adjustment that you would need to make. But do you see other, leadership having that tough adjustment?
I think for some of us older folks, we do because once you get your mind set on this is the way things are to be, sometimes change is hard to kind of adapt to. But I think leadership is leadership, right? And I think that once you reach a level of whether you're a master chief or you get to the 06, 05, 07 level, you've learned to be a leader of people. So you listen and try to relate so that you can understand what it is a person's going through so that you can be better leader for them and them be a better person for themselves. I think we have to first understand that everybody's not against you, right? And though you get that storm cloud over you and you seem to be fumbling and you can't get things right, sometimes it takes stepping back or listening to somebody else to see where you really are. So being able to navigate through your career from whatever rank you come into, leading to retirement or transition out, takes you constantly evaluating what your goals are.
Yeah.
And if you're not evaluating your goals, maybe you're stagnant and you need to develop some goals so that you have a sense of direction. Because, if like stay with this business, if you never had an ultimate goal of what you saw as success and metric to measure that, where would you be? You could still be at ground zero, right? So people that sometimes have a hard time with that, it's because they haven't really realized that I've grown up and I need to figure out what my path is.
Yeah, those analytics, those measurable goals, that foundation. But I think again, a lot of times people don't have someone to instill that in them, and a lot of times the military instills that in you. And it gives you that structure, it gives you that understanding, it gives you a sense of direction. But before the military, who gave you that sense of direction, that moral compass?
So my parents. Both of my parents was there my entire life. My dad recently passed last year, but my mom was the disciplinarian, right? So when it came to right or wrong, she made sure you knew right or wrong, and she taught you with the metric, which was a leather belt at times or extension cord, how to better navigate so you don't end up back here. So I think my parents having I want to say a high expectation for success for us kind of drove me in the direction I went. Even though I wanted to do it in nursing school, I got in the Navy and I started liking being an OS. And because I liked what I did and I felt I was great at what I did, that's what I wanted to continue to do.
Wow.
So I think the values instilled in me from, being raised by my parents and the rest of my family helped me be successful.
Yeah.
So I remember my mom saying, it doesn't matter what you do, just be the best of it. If even you're out scooping, horse manure behind a Mardi Gras parade or something like that, be the best at it. So, but have an idea of what you see and value as success, right? Because everybody's view of success is not the same, right? So I may have a more narrow focus because now I'm older, whereas when I was younger, it was a wide, broad view of what I wanted to do. So I think now honing everything in, I think more analytically before I do, right? Before, when you're younger, I just did.
Yeah,
And I was happy with whatever the outcome was.
Yeah.
So though many people might have been, hurt, whatever it is,
Yeah.
you didn't care about that. All you cared about is self. So now, after so many years, I feel like I've been a parent to a lot of young people who needed structure.
Yeah.
And because of that, I think I've helped them steer themselves in the right direction. And because of social media, now you get those attaboys from people who really didn't like you back in the day, right?
Wow.
People that, was like, oh, this dude is terrible, right? But then later on, it was like, hey, thank you for actually the day you did X, Y, Z, whatever it was, because I feel like if I see you mess up, I'm going to say something to you. But, and if you seem like you're moping around or whatever, I'm going to tell you, hey, that event is over, right? Yes, I was pissed. You probably didn't like what I said to you, but I don't want you walking around in eggshells because we had a certain conversation. I want you to know that I'm still here to support you no matter what, because your success is my success.
And if I cannot stress the level of understanding that everyone should instill in that. It sounds, again, through your career, yes, you provided corrective actioning, but it was within care, right? Care, love, understanding, and also still got to get a mission done.
Yeah.
We still got to complete a mission, and translating that sometimes it gets a little difficult for some military members to translate that in the civilian sector. You brought up why should the civilian sector hire and desire veterans, right? Punctuality, understanding that they're going to be the best at something.
Yeah, commitment.
Commitment, right? The three pillars: honor, courage, and commitment.
Yeah.
And then being able to instill that into someone's company or business, it becomes such a great thing. But sometimes it is so very difficult to transition for some veterans and understanding their value because. And personal story, transitioning out, it was very difficult, right? Understanding the navigational ways, not being in a place of structure where you don't have 3 meals in a cot a day, okay? Regardless of what.
Or a paycheck every 15 days.
Paycheck, right? So, trying to figure it out, most have someone like yourself to assist. But when you transition, it's not so pleasurable as most would seem. Going through deployments and
think
things of that nature.
Some of it starts with what your foundation is joining the military. Like I said, being one of the junior people on my first ship, I had a very good, I say supporting cast, but I was the support, and they were the main characters in molding what I've become today, right? So I've had so many people that took the time, stop, drop anchor, talk to me, and put me on the right track. If it weren't for those people, just to name a few: Dave Lee, Harold Brown, Ed Shaw, Dan Shaw, those people kept me out of trouble, as well as allow me to hone my craft to a point where I could make Master Chief. So you got to give people their accolades and things like that, because there's never a time when you're doing it on your own when you're in the military, right? And I think the Navy's focus, or the military as a whole, the focus when I came in is mission, 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 mission.
Yes, sir.
Right? Now we're putting people first. All right. And everybody may not agree with the way we're doing it, but if you don't have people, you can't complete missions. So you have to take care of the people holistically, whether that's their family, themselves, anything that they love, right? You have to make sure that is on a clean slate, and every day that they come in, they're ready to work. Because if anything else is going on the outside, my focus is not about mission. My focus is about my personal life. So being able to get those things resolved and moving forward kind of helps when you're in a leadership position, right?
Yeah.
People are going to do stupid things, and win stupid prizes for it, right? So you just got to show them that this is not the bottom, that you can still succeed. So leading in a positive manner is key to gaining the right people to do the mission.
Wow. And I think, and you made a huge key right there, right? Leading in a positive manner, but also right people.
The right
people, because sometimes, everyone isn't right.
Yeah. Everybody's not going to click on your style of leadership.
Exactly.
But good leaders adapt to people.
Ooh, there we go.
Right. And that's how you figure out what's going on, right? You got to be personable. You got to be approachable. And sometimes, I got a face for radio, but it's not always approachable.
Yeah.
I think people look at it as, they can't go to me because of what I look like. And what I tell them is take a chance, right? Because there are many people we judge before we even see who they are. And we cast them aside, right? And I think sometimes you got to talk to people to know people. And that helps with leadership as well. You got to know the people and what makes them tick.
True indeed. And not only that, I also want to add that, you know, when you're actually talking to these people, please listen because they will give you everything you need to know to be able to make sure you're going in the right direction and they're going in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things you got to think about, and my mom used to say this all the time, God gave you one mouth and two ears so you can listen twice as much as you speak. So people know from body language. We teach people body language that, I'm not accepting what you're saying, right? But at the same time, or, somebody's sitting down and I'm standing up talking to them. We're not on a level playing field, right? So the first thing I want to do is level the playing field so that the conversation we're having is one, to tell me what I need to do to support you, and then two, to get you where you need to be successful. Yeah. And continue to do things like that. It's small things that get people to follow you, like, listening, like you just said. If I'm working on a computer, I'm going to stop everything I'm doing so I can give you my full attention so that I can listen to hear, not to respond. Right. So often we want to listen to respond, and we never get to the root of problems that are, leading to invisible wounds. Right. Yeah. So, which is a big thing in our society right now. And an old head like me, sometimes I'm rough when it comes to that side of things because there are people who become cancers who cause bigger problems because of whatever they experienced, right? If they taken from a command because they feel like they need extra help or whatever like that from, somebody in a medical field to diagnose them. But when they come back, they talk about not doing anything. Mm-hmm. So that is appealing to people who don't want to work. So they leave and, it's the same stuff. It's repetitive. So it's about if I'm able to reach you in the beginning and ensure that everything is good with you, whether mentally, physically, I think it's a win because I don't lose a person and then it doesn't become a cancel within the command. So people first. I mean, I know they say mission first, people always, but I think the dynamic has changed, and we got to take care of people to make sure we're able to meet the mission.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm a direct lineage from you guys, and understanding that, mission was always first. Mission was always first. However, just changing. Understanding change, understanding pivoting, understanding everyone's not going to be like you.
No.
But now with this pre-retirement that you're kind of leading into, what are you doing to prepare yourself for the civilian sector to make sure that you're going to be successful with this transition?
So I think the biggest thing I've done so far is working with you guys. So it's kind of helped me out, and it's eased my mind on being able to get my medical things and stuff taken care of. Simply because I know the first day I said that I was going to put in my request for retirement, like a ton of bricks just fell on me, right? So it's so much anxiety going through. Am I still going to be able to take care of my family? Am I going to have extra for anything, right? So the other side of that is throughout my time in the Navy, I've gotten educated, right? So I've gotten educated to a point where I feel like I'm marketable, and I can compete with anybody from the civilian sector for a particular job or skill, right? And I think that's one of the things too that every misstep I've had in my career, I like to share with people so that they don't go through the same thing. And being able to see people for who they are helps you as a person because it allows you to relate to whatever they may be coping with. And I think that I've enjoyed success, but I've enjoyed seeing success as well because I feel like everybody that joins the military should be able to make it up to my level. And it's going to take hard work, but at the same time, my tutelage can help.
Wow, wow. And again, in my eyes, seeing Master Chiefs, high-ranking officers, captains, and different things of that nature, I think you guys are the cream of the crop. I think you guys are the cream of the crop. And why I say that is because I did serve, right, and understand the level of leadership, tools, and your attributes that you must have to be able to become who you are. It doesn't always translate well in civilian sector. Now, let me ask you: do you feel as though that you've prepared yourself enough to, when you transition, to really make sure you're taking the right steps in directing a civilian sector? That again, being a Master Chief, but then now you're civilian, starting back over.
I think I have because I had never stopped learning, right? So, and no matter what environment you go into, you still have to learn the ins and outs of what it is expected of you, right? The a level of healthy competition only makes you better, right? So you go someplace, and I mean, we do it all the time. As a leader, you can watch people come in who seem like they may be better than you, but they're not at your pay grade, right? The first thing some people want to do is grab them, chop their heads off because it makes me look bad because you're doing more or you're doing better or you're more knowledgeable in a certain thing, right? I like to take a different look at it. I like to say, okay, I get there, or the new person comes there, and they have a wealth of knowledge. So my job is to propel them up the chain of command, whether it's through evaluations or nominations for sale of the quarter boards or all this other stuff, so that they can see that we're not in competition, right? We're a team. And my job is to bring you where I am. And the thing that I do know, being a chief for so long, is everything that people do that are working with you, and I'm trying to get to stop saying people who work for me, people who are working with you, it's a direct reflection of what you have done to support them, right? And it's a direct reflection of your leadership, your care, and thoughtfulness to be able to take care of people. And as long as those people are thriving, I can thrive just by the things that they accomplish, right? And any accomplishment that I have, I feel like I don't need a bunch of things to make me look good. So it's for me to pass those things on to them so that they too can be as successful or be viewed as their best selves. I don't believe in butt kissing and all that. You don't need to do that to be successful. You just got to be smart. You got to know what your job is. You go every day to be put in mindset that I'm going to be the best whatever, and look for the competition, because competition always exists, but healthy competition makes better leaders, better sailors, make the mission complete, things like that.
No, true indeed. I couldn't agree with you better. I couldn't agree with you more because when you talk about going through those navigational waves, just civilian life, whether it's a civilian sector or a civil service or military, you want to find the best, right? You want to find the best, learn from the best, but also your target.
Yeah.
You know your target because you mentioned having measurable metrics. How do you measure it? Well, I measure it by the best. He's the best. So I want to be, I don't necessarily have to be competitive, but I know I want to be one of the best. And again, that's how you measure it. But
And you don't stop learning, because
Yeah.
the day you stop learning, everybody's going to get ahead of you. The day you think this is easy and this is where you're going to be, somebody's going to get ahead of you. Right. And then, after 30 years, one thing that I've learned is there's always a replacement. Right. Somebody's waiting, whether they're in boot camp or recruiting officer, in recruiting office right now, they're your replacement.
Yeah.
Right. So I'd like to just believe that I've done my best to train people well, so that I can leave comfortably and say, hey, whether it's just my rate or the Chiefs mess or whatever, I left them in a good position.
Yeah.
But other people may not see it the same, right? Because of all the changes. Oh, it wasn't like this when I was in. This is not your Navy,
Oh,
right? So you got to be able to understand that the Navy today, 2024, is not somebody who retired in 2012. It's
Yeah.
not your Navy, right?
Yeah.
So the adapting and the changing and stuff like that is to be able to better support people, make them more successful, make us more successful.
and it's all about unity, right? That unity, that development, growth, and also protection. But I'll tell you one thing. I'll tell you again, myself. I don't know why would I ever think this. I was E5 getting out of service. I was again lead petty officer doing taking the right steps, grinding, taking the right steps where we need to go. For some odd reason, again, my mind, I'm getting out. One of the first thoughts that came across my mind. Well, how is this division gonna run when I'm not here? I look at that statement.
So what you got to ask yourself is, how did it run before you got there?
Exactly.
There's always a genesis to everything.
Sure.
There's a genesis and a revelation. So, and the revelation is going to be you realizing that they ain't really need me. I did stuff, but somebody else, right? That is no, and it's giving somebody opportunity to be them best selves, right?
Yeah.
And I've had thoughts just like that, right? Going places and thinking, I'm the cream of the crop. And then this other guy steps right there and he's doing the same thing. And it seems like he's doing it better because he's a more sociable person. So everybody's getting a piece of it, right? So you got to realize there's going to be good competition. It's going to be bad competition. But at the end of the day, it's all about the mission.
That's true
And
indeed.
however we get it done, is what we're gonna do to make sure everything happens right. And that might not sound right, but it's just continue grinding to make sure that everything that you have set in place doesn't go away when you leave.
Right.
Because if it's solid enough, the next person coming in is going to use it, and they're going to just make it better. So you will always be known for that thing. So, and whether that is good or bad, some people might think it's arrogance or whatever, but it's pretty humbling to leave a place and come back a few years later and people are still talking about you.
Oh, true indeed. I'll tell you one thing. That thought, it was a fleeting one. It was a high level, and then I was that actually literally deflated every piece of arrogance I ever had. It was like, well, you have to really understand, like, this Navy has been running for a long time without you. So please believe it's going to continue to run.
Yeah, it's never all about you, though.
Yeah, true indeed. True indeed. So, but let me ask you this quick question. How many deployments have you on?
Jesus. I'm not even sure. At least 10. I'll say 9. It's 9 deployments.
That's a lot of sea time. That's a lot of sea time.
I had 15 years of sea time, but I do have basically a year and a half of boots on the ground. I did a tour in Iraq. Of course, I was in the great city of Djibouti and did some time in Bahrain, right? So, but it's only when you leave your family that you figure out it's not as enjoyable as you want it to be. And I was a late bloomer when it came to kids. So my first kid and only kid came when I was 35. So at that point, I was already a chief. I got tired of leaving, right? But I had to have the support of my wife to be able to take care of him while I'm away. So it's truly hard to be able to go through all those deployments knowing that you're not there to do the hard stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm a Southerner, so breadwinner and making things easy has always been instilled in me, and it's something that I always try to do because that's who I am now, right? But I don't think I had any bad deployments. So no matter what happened, at the end of the day, I made it back home.
True indeed, and that's what it's all about, making it back home. Because I'll tell you, I don't think everyone really understands how dangerous it really is. We can get into the weeds of things, but we won't. But you made a really major point of leaving family, leaving family. That was one of the reasons I personally transitioned out, because I don't know if I could have dealt with something like that major.
And many people leave the service because of that.
And it's very tough. It's very tough. And I think right now, we're through the change of military and understanding people and kind of making sure that people are taken care of, that should be a focal point, because it's damaging. It's emotionally, physically, and even mentally damaging.
So you can understand the need to make sure we're putting people first. Right?
100%.
The dynamic of what you and I were accustomed to when we first came in is much different from what we have now. The people are different. The things that they desire are different. The with them, like they used to say back in my day, what's in it for me? It's different. Yeah. So we all know that one thing sailors do desire is liberty and money. So if you're able to provide either, it's a win. And when you're not, you just got to figure out how to motivate it, right? And I think the healthy side of leadership is leading with humor. Know who you can do it with. Know that you're going to be held accountable if you say the wrong things, but at the same time, it makes people warm up to you better when you have somewhat of a joking nature. But at the same time, be stern enough to know that they're going to follow you in the time of need, right? So if there's a fire somewhere and we have to go in there, I know that I can get people to follow me, right? Because I've trained them, they're ready, and they live to respond for those things. They don't know it until it happens, though.
Yeah, and setting that training in place and development and understanding, those people are going to follow you. Well, with this last question here, what are some of the advice that you would have, one, for a sailor who is, up and coming and going into this new forever changing Navy, and who is wanting to, one, go through the ranks like yourself?
I think the best knowledge is knowing what you're supposed to do. Key to every day that we start is know your job, right? You hear it in every microcosm of a world, whether it's sports, the military, or whatever, the white collar section, that nothing happens if you're not doing your job. In order to do your job, you have to keep learning. Things change all the time, and you have to stay on top of them. So the other thing would be make sure that you take advantage of every opportunity to excel personally and professionally, right? Meaning get a college degree, go to the key schools that your rate needs. Don't stray away from the places you need to be, because when that happens, your progression slows. And if you want to get to a point where in 20 years you're a master chief, you got to be popping on all cylinders all the time. And in today's world, being approachable, you wake up in the morning, you see people and you say good morning, or you say, how you doing? Be ready to stop and listen, because one day somebody's going to want to talk. And I think so often we just take a little grain of salt that, you say, how you doing? And somebody else say, how you doing? And you just keep walking, right? somebody one day throughout, I know for my 30 years, there's always somebody is not doing good, right? And it's whether you're paying attention enough to see it or they actually come and talk to you because they value your opinions and things like that. So just being personable, constantly learning, taking advantage of every opportunity that's offered so that in the end you feel comfortable about what you've done for whatever amount of time. But at the end of the day, you got to develop goals and figure out what it is you want for yourself. And if you never do that, you find yourself 10 years down the line that you've accomplished nothing. So just constantly looking for the accomplishments, taking care of people, and being the best you is only going to help you. And that best you comes with you, whether you're at work, with your family, or out on liberty somewhere in a foreign country. The best you is what's going to propel you to the top. And it's also going to get the people that you show that type of leadership to do the same, because it's infectious. I think leadership is infectious. There are people that say you either born a leader or you're not. Well, I beg to differ. There are people who are introverts that can become some of the best leaders in the world. So, and you just got to know what you want and what you do to accomplish those wants and needs. But yeah, that's the best advice I can give is always be striving, look for healthy competition, and have a winning attitude.
Yeah, that positive winning attitude is more important than you think. But I'll tell you one thing: we are honored to have you here. We thank you, and not only do we thank you, our viewers thank you for imposing all of that knowledge, wisdom, and giving us the reason to understanding why Chiefs run the Navy. So at the end of the day, thank you so much, Master Chief.
Thank
It was
you
a
for
pleasure.
having me.
All right.